The cursor blinked on the operator's monitor, innocent, rhythmic, almost alive. A silent heartbeat in a small control room on the outskirts of Oldsmar, Florida. It was 1:30 p.m. February 5, 2021. A typical Friday. The hum of the air conditioner. The faint clink of a coffee mug. And then, something changed. A mouse began to move. Not by his hand. The operator froze, watching as the cursor danced across the screen on its own, gliding with eerie precision. It opened a control panel. Clicked. Navigated to the chemical levels of the city's drinking water. Then, without hesitation, it began to increase the sodium hydroxide levels. By a factor of 100. The same caustic chemical used to dissolve grease, to burn through organic matter. At the right concentration, it keeps pipes clean. At the wrong one, it kills. On that day, a faceless intruder was trying to poison a city. The operator scrambled to regain control, fighting for the cursor. The battle lasted seconds. The attacker vanished, just as quickly as they had appeared, leaving behind a silent line of code and a system that, for a terrifying moment, could have turned Oldsmar's water into a weapon. Was it a prank? A test? Or something far more sinister? Because what investigators would soon discover wasn't just a digital break-in. It was a revelation. That a single unsecured computer in a small Florida town had exposed a nationwide vulnerability, one capable of endangering millions. And the question wasn't just who did it. It was how many others could do it too. Oldsmar sits quietly between Tampa and Clearwater, a town of palm trees, pickup trucks, and sleepy suburban calm. Fewer than 15,000 people live there. On most days, its municipal buildings go unnoticed. Among them, a low-slung structure near Commerce Boulevard, the water treatment plant. Inside, a handful of operators oversee the invisible arteries of the city, pumps, valves, and tanks ensuring clean drinking water for every home and business. It's not glamorous work, but it's vital. And like many small towns across America, Oldsmar's system ran on thin budgets and aging infrastructure. The plant used a program called TeamViewer, a remote access tool that let employees log into the system from home. It was convenient. It was simple. And it was wide open. The city's computers were running on outdated versions of Windows 7. Passwords were shared between staff. There was no firewall, no multi-factor authentication, no intrusion detection system. It was a quiet accident waiting to happen. For years, cybersecurity experts had been warning that America's critical infrastructure, especially water treatment, was dangerously exposed. Most of these facilities weren't built to resist hackers. They were built to resist rust. Reports from the Department of Homeland Security went largely ignored. Local governments rarely had the money, or the expertise, to understand the threat. To them, hacking was a problem for banks and big tech, not small-town utilities. But in the shadows of the internet, eyes were watching. Somewhere, perhaps continents away, someone had stumbled upon a vulnerable system, Oldsmar's. Whether through a leaked credential, a password reused on a dark web list, or a simple open port scan, the attacker found a doorway. And once inside, they discovered something chillingly powerful: the ability to alter the chemical balance of an entire city's drinking water. For months, the system had been sitting there, unguarded, unmonitored. A digital time bomb disguised as a municipal machine. When the breach occurred, it wasn't a cinematic explosion of alarms and red lights. It was quiet. Just a mouse gliding across a screen, changing a number. And yet, in that small act, the hacker revealed something profound: that the weakest link in America's digital armor wasn't an algorithm, it was complacency. In the days following the incident, investigators from the FBI and the Secret Service swarmed Oldsmar. They combed through logs, tracing IP addresses, analyzing entry points. But the evidence led to a frustrating conclusion: the attack had originated through remote access, bouncing through layers of anonymized connections. It was nearly impossible to pinpoint a suspect. Officials made public statements quickly, assuring residents that no one had been harmed and that safety redundancies, physical and chemical, had prevented disaster. But behind closed doors, there was unease. Because if Oldsmar could be breached, any city could. The story made national headlines, igniting a debate about the fragility of modern infrastructure. How much of our daily life, our water, our power, our hospitals, was held together by digital trust? The Oldsmar incident was a wake-up call. But it was also a warning. That day, a hacker didn't just infiltrate a water system. They infiltrated America's sense of security. It began with something so ordinary, so human, that it barely registered as a threat. A password. 6 letters. 1 number. Shared between 3 employees and used for years. It unlocked a remote access program meant for convenience, a shortcut into a city's most sensitive system. And somewhere, someone found it. Cybersecurity investigators would later theorize that the intruder had scanned thousands of IP addresses, an automated sweep across the internet, looking for open ports associated with software like TeamViewer. These scans are the digital equivalent of walking down a street and quietly testing every doorknob, just to see which ones turn. Oldsmar's door turned easily. Once inside, the attacker was greeted by the humming interface of the city's water control system, known in the industry as a SCADA system, short for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. It's the nervous system of modern utilities, a web of computers and sensors monitoring every pump, valve, and chemical feed. On the operator's screen, the interface looked deceptively simple: boxes, numbers, and graphs representing chemical levels and flow rates. But beneath it was a live connection to physical hardware. Adjust one value, and real machinery would respond. That's the chilling beauty of a cyber-physical system. Lines of code translate directly into motion, pressure, chemistry. The intruders seemed to know exactly where to go. They didn't wander or probe randomly. They moved with intent. Cursor to control panel. Control panel to chemical input. Sodium hydroxide, NaOH. The chemical responsible for balancing the acidity of the water, making it safe to drink. The attacker increased the setting from 100 parts per million to 11,100. That number, 11,100, burned into the mind of the operator who saw it. He acted fast, moving his own mouse, reclaiming control, resetting the value. The attacker vanished as suddenly as they appeared. The entire incident lasted no more than 5 minutes. 5 minutes between a quiet afternoon and potential mass poisoning. After the breach, technicians immediately disconnected the plant's systems from remote access, reverting to manual control. Engineers checked every chemical feed, verifying that no dangerous levels had entered the water. The physical safeguards had worked, valves and sensors that would have triggered before contaminated water reached any tap. But that didn't ease the dread. Because it wasn't luck that saved Oldsmar. It was timing. If the operator hadn't been sitting there, if the breach had happened overnight, or during a holiday, or at another plant without live